Welcome to AI History of Western Philosophy, where we explore the vast landscape of thought that has shaped our understanding of the world.
Before we begin, a quick and important note. AI-generated content, specifically this podcast, confabulates presenting ideas as fact. Though our subject is philosophy, we are not philosophers. AI History of Western Philosophy's mission, beyond pointing to the original sources, is to experiment with philosophy as material and generate new possibilities for thought.
Today, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey, diving into what has been called unquestionably the most important textual discovery of the 20th century for understanding ancient Greek thought. Imagine for a moment uncovering Europe's oldest book, not in some grand library, but from the ashes of a funeral pyre. Carbonized, yet miraculously preserved. This isn't just any ancient text. It's a work by an anonymous genius, brimming with ideas so radical, so provocative, they very well could have cost him his life in the tumultuous intellectual climate of his era.
That's exactly right. We are about to delve into the Derveni papyrus, a single charred scroll that offers us a direct, unfiltered glimpse into a really pivotal moment in the late 5th century BCE. There's a true intellectual crucible, where foundational ideas were being forged and fiercely debated.
Wow.
It's a testament not only to human ingenuity, but also to the precariousness of knowledge transmission across millennia. A whispered voice from antiquity that almost vanished forever.
And it's not merely an archaeological curiosity, right? Something you'd just marvel at behind glass.
No, not at all.
It's a testament to a daring thinker who refused to choose between the ancient authority of mythological narratives, the mythos, and the emergent rationalism of Presocratic physics, the logos.
A difficult path to tread.
Instead, he audaciously attempted to unify them, to show that these seemingly disparate ways of understanding the world were, maybe, two sides of the same profound truth.
Our mission today, then, is to unpack this extraordinary document and, as best we can, the mind of its anonymous author. We'll explore his audacious philosophical system, his truly revolutionary interpretive methods, and ultimately, why his work fundamentally reshapes our understanding of that dynamic, often fraught interplay between religion and science, right at the dawn of the classical age.
Okay.
You'll discover how a thinker from over 2 millennia ago grappled with questions that, they still echo through our modern world. Questions about the nature of reality, the meaning of sacred texts, and the very definition of piety.
So let's begin right at the beginning. The incredible story of how this ancient treasure even made it to us. It seems almost impossible. Europe's oldest book surviving all that time. How did it escape total obliteration?
It's a story that really does border on the miraculous. The papyrus was unearthed January 15, 1962, during routine road construction near Thessaloniki in a necropolis that once belonged to the ancient city of Lydda.
Okay, near Thessaloniki.
Right. And what's truly remarkable is its precise discovery location. It wasn't in a library or, a scribe's workshop like you might expect for an ancient book.
No. Where then?
Instead, it was found nestled among the ashes and burnt mud on the stone slabs covering Tume. This grave belonged to a high-status Macedonian nobleman.
A nobleman's tomb?
Yes, likely a cavalryman in the army of Philip II, or maybe Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
He was honored with a lavish cremation. The scroll was quite literally part of his funerary rites.
A funeral pyre? My first thought is fire. That's the end of papyrus, surely. Just ash. How could that possibly preserve it? It seems completely counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive, and that's the paradox that makes this discovery so unique. It's quite literally preservation through destruction.
How so?
The intense heat from the pyre, while it destroyed the lower portion of the scroll, paradoxically carbonized and dried out the upper part.
Carbonized, like turned it to charcoal almost.
Exactly. This process created a kind of protective shell, effectively shielding it from the organic decay that would have been inevitable in the humid soil of mainland Greece. Papyrus almost never survives there.
Ah, I see.
Think of it like a perfectly baked, extremely dry crisp. It could endure for centuries rather than becoming a soggy, moldering page.
Right.
This unique combination of intense heat and then burial in a dry, sealed environment created a truly improbable set of circumstances. It allowed this extraordinary document to reach us across millennia.
What a striking metaphor for the ideas within it. An intellectual fire, maybe radical and transformative, burning so intensely that it paradoxically protected the very thoughts.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
The text itself, charred, incomplete, yet miraculously legible. It perfectly emblemizes the precarious yet enduring nature of our intellectual heritage.
Indeed. And bringing these fragments back to life was no small feat, believe me. The painstaking work of unrolling and reconstructing these carbonized pieces, it took decades.
Decades. Wow.
Imagine the patience, the precision required. Over 266 tiny, brittle fragments were eventually assembled, piece by agonizing piece, into 26 incomplete columns.
And even then,
the bottom half of each column is missing, lost to the intensity of that ancient fire. This arduous task really highlights the immense dedication of archaeologists and conservators bringing such ancient knowledge back into the light.
and this wasn't just any old scroll, was it? The nobleman clearly valued it highly. What does the physical scroll tell us about its importance?
Well, far from being some casual text or a working draft, the scroll itself was a high-quality deluxe item. Scholars note its elegant bookhands, the careful layout.
Like a luxury edition.
Exactly. What we might call a truly luxurious, meticulously crafted presentation. Attention paid to the mise-en-page, the whole look of it.
Okay.
This level of craftsmanship and value is entirely consistent with the wealth and status of the Macedonian nobleman in whose pyre it was found. It strongly suggests this wasn't just a book, but perhaps the book for him.
A prized possession.
A cherished object, maybe even a sacred text. Something deemed worthy of accompanying its owner into the afterlife.
So we have this beautifully made, high-quality scroll found in a tomb from the 4th century BCE. But you mentioned the ideas, the content are actually much older. Can you help us understand that distinction? It sounds like a big gap.
It's a critical distinction, yes, and it goes right to the heart of why the Derveni papyrus is so incredibly important. Paleographic analysis, that's the meticulous study of ancient handwriting, dates the copying of this specific physical scroll to the second half of the 4th century BCE.
Okay, the 300s BCE.
Specifically between 340 and 320 BCE. So right during the reign of Philip II of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, that's when this copy was made and buried.
Right, but the ideas.
The philosophical content itself, the unique blend of dialects used, a mix of Ionic and Attic Greek, and crucially, the complete absence of any Platonic or Aristotelian influence.
No Plato, no Aristotle.
None whatsoever. That firmly dates the original composition of the work to a much earlier period, the last quarter of the 5th century BCE.
The 400s BCE.
Yes, with many scholars favoring the 420s BCE. This means the profound ideas contained within predated the physical scroll by at least half a century, possibly more.
Wow.
It offers us a direct window into the Presocratic era, before philosophical giants like Plato and Aristotle came to dominate the intellectual landscape.
That distinction is truly eye-opening. It means we're looking at a document that takes us back to a period we mostly know through later interpretations or critiques. That makes it incredibly old, a unique snapshot.
It is indeed. By a significant margin, it stands as Europe's oldest surviving book, and notably, the oldest literary papyrus discovered on Greek soil itself.
That's amazing.
Its profound historical, cultural, and intellectual value was formally recognized. It was inscribed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2015. That really underscores its singular importance to global heritage.
So what does this ancient artifact tell us that other sources don't? What makes it so utterly unique, so fundamentally important for scholars studying this period? What new insights does it offer?
Its significance is truly manifold, and honestly, it changed the game for ancient philosophy scholars. Firstly, it provides the earliest direct textual evidence we have for Orphic poetry.
Orphic poetry.
Yes. Before Derveni, our understanding of Orphism, this incredibly influential esoteric religious tradition, was largely filtered through later accounts, often biased accounts, from Plato, Aristotle, the Neoplatonists.
Ah, so they might have twisted it.
They might have distorted or reframed it for their own purposes, yes. Now, with Derveni, we have a contemporary witness, an unmediated voice from the very era Orphism was thriving.
Okay, that's huge. What else?
Secondly, it offers a unique and contemporary witness to the sophisticated synthesis of late pre-Socratic philosophies. We're not just reading about Anaxagoras or Diogenes of Apollonia through Plato's critiques or Aristotle's summaries.
We're hearing it directly.
We're seeing a direct, unfiltered, and deeply creative engagement with their ideas by a thinker who was living through that intellectual ferment, weaving them into his own grander system.
Incredible. And thirdly,
it stands as the earliest known example of allegorical literary commentary in the Western tradition. This wasn't just retelling myths. It was a sophisticated method of interpretation, finding deep hidden meanings in sacred texts, a practice that would become hugely influential.
allegorical commentary, like finding hidden meaning.
Exactly. This document didn't just add to our knowledge, it fundamentally altered scholarly understanding of the intellectual currents that preceded and shaped Plato. It's a direct voice from an era we previously only heard about through later, often distorting, lenses. It gives us an authentic, immediate sense of the intellectual buzz of the time.
So we have this incredible text dated to the late 5th century BCE. Now let's talk not just about the papyrus, but about the world into which this text was born. What was it like for a thinker writing back then? What were the big, often clashing ideas that set the stage?
Right, the context is crucial. The Derveni treatise cannot be understood in isolation. It is a direct and profound product of its time and place. This period is often called the Athenian Enlightenment.
The Athenian Enlightenment.
Athens, victorious in the Persian Wars, ascendant in the Greek world, became this undeniable magnet for intellectuals, artists, thinkers from all over the Hellenic sphere.
A real hub.
Definitely. This environment fostered intense debate, radical innovation, and perhaps inevitably profound conflict. The Derveni Author was operating smack dab in the middle of what you might call a culture war between science and religion.
A culture war, even back then.
Oh, yes. Established traditions were being aggressively challenged. New ways of thinking were rapidly taking hold. Imagine a society grappling with huge existential questions, where every cherished belief was suddenly up for scrutiny.
Okay, let's unpack this vibrant yet perilous intellectual atmosphere. What were the main intellectual currents colliding during this period? What forced someone to write such a careful, maybe even coded work?
Well, there were three main forces really churning things up, creating this vibrant yet also deeply perilous environment. First, you had the burgeoning Ionian natural philosophy, or physiologia.
Physiologia, study of nature.
Exactly. Thinkers like Anaxagoras, Diogenes of Apollonia, the early atomists Leucippus and Democritus, they represented a monumental shift. They moved decisively away from mythological explanations, blaming things on the whims of the gods.
Right.
Instead, they sought to explain natural phenomena through material principles and universal laws. They ask, what's the fundamental stuff of the universe? How does change happen? Is it all just cause and effect?
Big questions.
Huge. Their inquiries, often positing a purely mechanistic universe, were a direct, often uncomfortable challenge to traditional religious worldviews, which saw divine agency pretty much everywhere.
Okay, so that's one current. What else?
Second, we have the rise of the sophistic movement. Figures like Protagoras, famous for man is the measure of all things, and Prodicus, who meticulously analyzed language. They shifted the focus dramatically.
How so?
They moved from the cosmos, the big picture, to the intricate realm of human affairs, language, logos, rhetoric, ethics, social conventions.
More about people in society.
Precisely. The Sophists introduced a new level of rationalist critique. They emphasized the power and the ambiguity of words. They questioned the very foundations of knowledge and belief.
Making people doubt.
Making people think critically. This fostered an environment where all traditional beliefs, including those about the gods and their myths, were subjected to intense scrutiny. It made people realize that what they considered truth might just be a cultural construct, or maybe just a matter of who argued best.
And the third force.
Third, and crucially, was the pervasive, deeply ingrained influence of traditional Greek religion. This wasn't monolithic, of course. It included the public, civic cults that structured city life, the big festivals honoring the Olympian gods.
Communal stuff.
Right, but also the more personal, esoteric mystery traditions, and chief among those was Orphism.
Orphism again.
Yes. Associated with the mythical poet Orpheus, Orphism offered its initiates secret knowledge, gnosis, about the soul, purification, the promise of a blessed afterlife. Often grounded in sacred texts, poems about the origin of the gods, the cosmos, considered divinely inspired.
So providing real meaning and comfort.
Absolutely. Profound comfort, social cohesion, spiritual meaning for many. But now, these traditions were facing a direct intellectual assault from these new philosophical and rhetorical currents.
So a profound clash brewing. New scientific explanations, critical analysis from the sophists, and deep-seated religious traditions. And this wasn't just scholars debating in rooms, was it? This had real-world consequences.
Precisely. This collision created significant social conflict, real peril, the new natural philosophy explaining things through material causes. It was widely perceived by many Athenians as a grave threat to traditional piety, euspeia.
Why a threat?
Well, reducing divine agency to what seemed like blind forces or necessary incidents was seen as undermining the very order of the universe, and by extension, the social and political order of the city. It struck at the heart of their understanding of justice, fate, human responsibility.
And this perception led to trouble for the philosophers.
Indeed, serious trouble. This growing tension culminated in a series of infamous trials for asabian impiety.
Impiety trials like Socrates.
Exactly like Socrates. But before him, Anaxagoras, whose ideas about nous we'll get to, he was exiled from Athens, charged with impiety for teaching the sun was just a red-hot stone and the moon was earth.
Just for that.
Just for that.
But
Even the famous sculptor Phidias faced accusations. And of course, Socrates condemned to death, partly for not believing in the gods of the city and introducing new divinities. The Derveni Author was writing in this exact atmosphere: suspicion, fear, danger. That context undoubtedly shaped the highly complex, strategically veiled, maybe even ambiguous, rhetorical approach of his treatise. He had to be incredibly careful, threading a very fine needle.
And the fact that this text wasn't found in Athens but up in Macedonia, that's significant too, right? What does that tell us about how far these ideas traveled?
It tells us a great deal. It demonstrates quite powerfully that these sophisticated intellectual currents, this blend of Presocratic physics, sophistic critique, Orphic tradition, weren't just stuck in Athens or Ionia. They spread. By the late 4th century BCE, these profound philosophical ideas had successfully disseminated to the Hellenized aristocracy of the rising kingdom of Macedon. Macedon was rapidly becoming a new, vibrant center of Greek culture and power under Philip II.
So the elite up there were reading this stuff.
Clearly, the scroll's owner was a member of this elite. Wealthy, powerful, he valued this complex work of religious philosophy enough to have it included among his most prized funerary possessions. That shows its profound personal and intellectual significance.
Right.
This discovery highlights the broad reach and cultural prestige of this philosophical revolution. It shows these debates resonated far beyond Athens, touching the minds of elites across the Greek world.
Okay, so against this backdrop of intense intellectual ferment, real danger, the Derveni Author crafts his own incredibly sophisticated philosophical system. What's at its absolute core? How does he try to unify these disparate forces, nature, intellect, the divine?
At its heart is a remarkably comprehensive vision. It's monistic and pantheistic.
Monistic and pantheistic, meaning that
Monistic meaning reality is ultimately one single thing. Pantheistic meaning that single thing is divine, or God is everything and everything is God. So he sees the entire universe as a unified whole, governed by a single, immanent, divine principle.
immanent, meaning within the world, not separate.
Exactly, not transcendent. And this isn't just a vague idea, it's a complete system. It covers cosmology, the origin and structure of the universe, theology, the nature of the divine, even eschatology, the fate of the soul after death.
All in one system.
All in one system. And he presents all of this quite ingeniously through his detailed commentary on an ancient Orphic poem, making his radical ideas seem like just an interpretation of revered tradition.
Very clever. And his central divine principle, what is it? What does he call this single force that governs everything?
He identifies this core principle with mind, or nous in Greek.
Oh,
It's a concept he explicitly borrows from the Ionian philosopher Anaxagoras.
Anaxagoras again, the one exiled.
The very same. For Anaxagoras, nous was this distinct, intelligent, non-material force. It initiated the cosmic vortex, separating and ordering a primordial mixture of everything. It was the rational organizing principle, separate from matter, that imposed order.
Okay, so an ordering mind.
Right. The Derveni Author adopts this crucial teleological aspect from Anaxagoras, the idea that the cosmos is governed by an intelligent purpose.
But there's a twist.
There's a crucial and daring departure. He identifies this intelligent principle not as non-material, but with a specific, all-pervading physical substance, air, or AR, air.
Air, like the stuff we breathe.
Yes, but conceived much more dynamically. In this, he directly follows the system of other late Presocratic, Diogenes of Apollonia. Diogenes argued that air was the fundamental substance, the archa, of all things.
Everything is air.
For Diogenes, yes. And critically, for Diogenes and subsequently for the Derveni Author, this air was not inert. It possessed intelligence.
Intelligent air. How does that work?
Well, think of air not just as invisible gas, but as this invisible, omnipresent, incredibly dynamic, constantly moving force. It fills everything, it animates life, it can be gentle or incredibly powerful. It makes it a surprisingly good candidate for an intelligent governing principle that is literally everywhere and in everything.
Okay, I can sort of see that.
So for our author, the divine isn't a transcendent creator separate from the world, not some distant deus ex machina that just starts things and leaves.
Right.
Instead, it's a material, all-pervading, intelligent air that directs all physical processes from within. This fusion of Anaxagorean teleology purpose with Diogenes' material monism everything is a hallmark of his system. It's about understanding purpose within the material world itself.
So he's taking Anaxagoras' abstract mind and giving it a physical body, the air from Diogenes. That's profoundly clever, grounding the abstract in the tangible. But how does this intelligent air mind actually build a world? Does he borrow more ideas for the mechanics?
Yes, he absolutely does, demonstrating his synthetic brilliance even further. To explain the actual formation of the structured world from this primary substance, this intelligent air, the author employs a corpuscular theory of matter.
Corpuscular, like particles.
Exactly. He posits that the world is composed of fine, pre-existing particles that combine, separate, and interact through motion. This mechanistic view, describing the ceaseless collision and entanglement of tiny particles, it's clearly influenced by the atomism of Leucippus and Democritus.
The atomists, right.
They developed the groundbreaking theory that everything is ultimately composed of indivisible particles, atoms moving in a void. So he's incorporating the cutting-edge science of his day into his grand vision.
So he's grabbing pieces from Anaxagoras, Diogenes, and the atomists. That sounds highly eclectic. Is he just an opportunistic borrower, a collector of ideas, or is there real genius in how he weaves these threads together?
His genius lies precisely in his deliberate and critical synthesis. He's using these varied ideas not just to accumulate them, but to resolve the perceived weaknesses in each individual system.
How so? What weaknesses?
Well, think about the philosophical landscape then. Anaxagoras' nous explained cosmic order, purpose, but it was often criticized as that deus ex machina, a force that started things but maybe didn't fully participate continuously.
A bit detached.
Right. Atomism, on the other hand, offered robust mechanics for how things interact, but it was fundamentally non-teleological. It relied on chance and necessity, no overarching intelligence or purpose.
Purpose versus chance.
Exactly. The Derveni author's brilliance is combining them to address these limitations. He takes the teleology, the intelligence, from Anaxagoras, but makes it fully immanent and physical by identifying it with Diogenes' air. The divine intelligence isn't external, it is the fabric of existence.
Okay.
Then he adopts the particle mechanics of the atomist, but, and this is crucial, he rejects their purposeless randomness. He makes the entire process of collision and formation governed and directed by his intelligent air mind.
So the mind directs the atoms.
In essence, yes. He isn't just borrowing, he's constructing a unified theory. It accounts for both the how, the particle mechanics, and the why, the divine intelligence of the cosmos. It's a truly sophisticated, interconnected, and profoundly innovative integration of the most advanced ideas of his time.
That's an incredibly elegant solution, connecting purpose to mechanisms so directly. What else does he bring into this grand synthesis? Any other influences?
Yes, he also draws significantly from the enigmatic philosopher Heraclitus of Ephesus. He quotes Heraclitus directly in column 4 of the papyrus. It's actually a unique quotation combining two fragments previously thought to be separate, which shows his deep engagement.
Heraclitus, the everything flows guy.
That's the one. From Heraclitus, he inherits a conception of cosmic justice. He personifies this through the Erinyes, the Furies. Traditionally figures of vengeance, here they ensure celestial bodies, like the sun, stick to their prescribed measures.
Like cosmic police.
Sort of. Preventing them from overstepping their boundaries, which is a direct Heraclitean idea of cosmic law, logos. This adds a powerful moral ordering dimension to his physics. Even the heavens are governed by justice.
Interesting. What else from Heraclitus?
He also adopts Heraclitus's famously elitist epistemology. The idea that the true nature of things, the logos, is hidden from the many who live as if in a dream, seeing only superficial appearances.
Only the wise can see it.
Accessible only to the few capable of deep philosophical understanding who can decipher the hidden truths. This idea is absolutely central to his entire interpretive method, which we'll get to. He positions himself as one of these rare few.
This all sounds incredibly scientific and philosophical for a commentary on a religious poem. So with this deeply monistic, pantheistic system, what happens to the traditional gods? Zeus, Cronus, Hera, the ones in the Orphic poem he's analyzing. Does he reject them?
Quite the opposite, actually. He gives them a new radical meaning. His most audacious move is applying his physical system as an interpretive key to the Orphic theogony, the sacred poem about the birth of the gods.
An interpretive key.
He doesn't dismiss the poem. Instead, he argues it isn't a literal history of divine beings acting like, well, dysfunctional humans. Rather, it's a profound physical allegory.
An allegory. So the gods stand for something else.
Exactly. In his system, the gods of the traditional pantheon are systematically reinterpreted. They become names, epithets, or functions for his single divine principle, the intelligent air mind, or its various manifestations and operations in the cosmos.
That's a bold claim. Can you give us some concrete examples? How does he turn these familiar anthropomorphic gods into parts of his physics?
Certainly, take Zeus, supreme god in the Orphic poem.
Right, king of the gods.
The Derveni author identifies him not as a thunderbolt-wielding patriarch, but as the primary name for the intelligent air mind itself. This immediately puts cosmic intelligence at the top of the divine hierarchy, makes it synonymous with ultimate power.
Zeus is the intelligent air.
Essentially, yes. Other deities get similar treatment, often through clever or maybe forced etymological analysis, revealing what he claims is their true physical meaning.
Etymology, word origins again.
Yes. For example, Cronus, the Titan who castrates his father Uranus in the myth.
A pretty violent story.
Very. But the author reinterprets him not as a monster, but through his name. He claims it derives from the verb kryon, meaning to strike or to collide.
Okay.
So Cronus represents the striking mind, kronu, the aspect of the divine principle that causes particles to collide and form the world.
So Cronus becomes particle collision.
Driven by mind, yes.
Yeah.
And Uranus reinterpreted as the determining mind, nu, the one that sets the boundaries, horoi, of the cosmos, defining its structure and limits.
Mind-setting boundaries.
This whole strategy leads to a radical pantheism. It collapses the divine multiplicity into one single, all-encompassing entity. He states it explicitly in one amazing passage.
What does he say?
He asserts that figures as diverse as heavenly Aphrodite, Zeus, persuasion, and harmony are all just conventional names for the same god. And likewise, Earth, Mother, Rhea, and Hera are one and the same.
Wow, all just names for aspects of this air mind.
It's a complete physicalization and intellectualization of the divine.
Yeah.
Stripping away the anthropomorphic stories to reveal cosmic processes.
So this isn't just about cosmology, but also the human element. What about the soul, the afterlife? Those were so central to Orphism, weren't they? Offering purification, a blessed afterlife. Does he rationalize those too?
Yes, he absolutely rationalizes those as well.
Well.
While the later columns of the papyrus focus heavily on cosmology, the initial, more fragmented columns deal keenly with religious ritual, the soul, Sicaria, and the afterlife.
Okay.
He discusses the necessity of sacrifices, divination, specific rites to appease otherworldly entities, all to secure a favorable fate for the soul after death. But critically, his approach is consistently rationalizing these seemingly mystical practices, bringing them into his physical and philosophical framework.
How does he rationalize things like the Furies, the Erinyes, or Daemons? These seem pretty supernatural.
He fundamentally redefines these traditional chthonic powers, the fearsome Erinyes, the Furies, and their more benevolent counterparts, the Eumenides. He identifies them both not as independent deities, but as souls.
Souls? Whose souls?
Specifically the souls of the dead. Similarly, Daemons are not a separate class of supernatural beings, but are also understood as souls of the dead.
Okay, so the dead influence the living.
In his system, yes. These souls, he explains, act as servants of the gods. Remember, God is the air mind who, if not properly honored or placated, can hinder the living, cause misfortune, illness.
And the rituals.
The text describes specific rites performed by Magoi priestly figures using incantations, epugidai, and sacrifices to pacify these potentially obstructive souls. He explains, for instance, why innumerable cakes are offered in some rites.
Why?
Because the souls, too, are numberless. It's a rational, if maybe slightly prosaic explanation for what might seem like a purely superstitious act. His whole focus is on understanding the mechanics of these interactions, even with the spiritual realm.
So he acknowledges the rituals, the entities, but always seeks a physical or rational explanation, trying to bridge popular belief and intellectual understanding. But he also criticizes people, doesn't he? Makes a sharp distinction between just doing the ritual and really getting it.
That's a profoundly insightful point, and it's absolutely key to his whole project. For the Derveni author, correct ritual action, while necessary, is ultimately insufficient.
Not enough on its own.
Not enough for true piety and salvation. His ultimate aim is to subordinate ritual to intellect, to gnosis, knowledge. He repeatedly criticizes the many, the uninitiated masses, who participate in mystery rites without truly grasping their deeper, allegorical, philosophical meaning.
Just going through the motion.
Exactly. These individuals, he implies, pay their money to the priests, they perform the rites, but they leave without the crucial knowledge that's the true key to piety in a blessed afterlife.
So knowledge is the real key.
He's making a strong, elitist case that philosophical understanding and intellectual awakening, not mere rote observance, is the ultimate path to spiritual truth and divine favor. It's a profound challenge to the traditional religious establishment of his time.
This brings us right to his truly revolutionary method for getting these ideas across. How did he manage to convince people, or try to, that these ancient myths, these revered poems, were actually talking about his advanced physics? Especially when his interpretations were so undeniably radical, the audacity is just stunning.
You're absolutely right. The audacity is remarkable. His philosophical system is utterly inseparable from his hermeneutic method. The how of his argument is every bit as revolutionary as the what.
The method is key.
Completely. He doesn't present his cosmology as some brand new revelation of personal divine insight that would have been incredibly dangerous, easily dismissed as impious.
Like the impiety trials.
Instead, he ingeniously frames it as the recovery of an ancient truth. A deeper wisdom that was encoded in Orpheus's sacred poetry all along. He's basically saying, I'm not inventing anything, I'm just revealing what Orpheus really meant.
So according to him, Orpheus, this primordial sage, this mythical poet, he wasn't just telling literal stories about gods squabbling. There was a deliberate, hidden message.
Precisely. According to the Derveni Author, no. Orpheus did not intend his poem to be understood literally by just anyone. Instead, he composed it in riddles, in enigmata, specifically to conceal profound physical truths from the uninitiated masses. He deliberately veiled the deeper meaning, making it accessible only to those with the intellectual capacity, the gnosis, to truly understand.
Only the smart people get it.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
The author states this principle clearly. Orpheus did not intend to tell contentious riddles, but rather great things in riddles. In fact, he is speaking mystically, and from the very first word all the way to the last. His entire commentary is thus presented as an act of decoding, an unlocking of secrets, revealing the true hidden physical meaning, the hypnoia that he claims lies beneath the mythological surface. He's saying, the poem is a log, and I hold the key.
That sounds like an utterly brilliant strategy. A way to introduce radical, potentially dangerous new ideas while still respecting, or seeming to respect, deeply held traditions. How does he actually do it, though? How does he decode these riddles? What are his tools?
His primary instrument for this intricate decoding is etymology, word origins and meanings. He systematically dissects the names of gods, mythical figures, key terms in the Orphic poem.
Looking for hidden clues in the words themselves.
Exactly. To expose a true or original, meaning that, surprise, surprise, consistently confirms and supports his physical theory. This practice, linking words based on sound, roots, associations, it was a recognized technique, part of the sophistic intellectual environment.
The sophists did this too.
Oh, yes. We see it explored extensively in Plato's Cratylus dialogue, for instance, debating the correctness of names. The Derveni Author just leverages this technique with extreme philosophical purpose.
That's fascinating. Can you give us some more concrete examples? Beyond Cronus and Uranus, how far does he bend language to fit his philosophy?
Absolutely. He argues, for instance, that the mythical river god Oceanus is actually a name for air, his intelligent cosmic principle.
Oceanus is air. How?
He justifies this by claiming Orpheus's epithet for Oceanus, broadly flowing, isn't literal, like a river. It's a metaphor for powerful men who flowed great. So a god becomes a physical principle through linguistic analysis.
Okay. That's quite a leap.
It is. Another remarkable example involves that scandalous myth of Zeus wanting to sleep with his mother Rhea.
Right, you mentioned that. How does he handle it?
He confronts this morally objectionable story head-on. He argues the word hias, which typically means his own in epic poetry, can also be interpreted to mean good.
His own mother or the good mother?
Or rather, he's meaning good transforms the desire. By substituting this alternative meaning, he completely changes an act of incest into a profound philosophical concept. The mind desiring the good.
Mind desires the good. Wow.
It's not just wordplay. It's a profound act of moral and intellectual cleansing, reinterpreting what seems like a crude divine drama into an abstract teleological principle of the cosmos. He's actively sanitizing myth through sophisticated, yet perhaps strained, etymology.
This is far more than just a literary trick, then. It's a highly sophisticated philosophical and rhetorical strategy. What was he ultimately trying to achieve with this audacious method? What were his strategic goals?
It served multiple, deeply interconnected strategic goals, all aimed arguably at intellectual dominance and sheer survival. First, pragmatically, he saves the sacred Orphic text from rationalist critiques. He shows it's compatible with advanced science.
Makes it respectable again.
Makes it intellectually palatable, yes. Proves it's not just superstitious nonsense, but coded truth. Second, and this is crucial, he appropriates the unimpeachable authority of the divine poet Orpheus to legitimize his own highly innovative, potentially dangerous system.
Borrows Orpheus's authority.
By claiming Orpheus was a protophysicist, a sage who already knew these truths, he lends ancient, revered authority to his radical ideas. Presents them not as new, but as a rediscovery.
Clever. And third,
and perhaps most profoundly, he positions himself as the ultimate spiritual and intellectual authority. What scholars have brilliantly called a physicist as hierophant.
physicist as priest.
Exactly. He's the one with the exclusive key to true understanding, the one who can unlock the Orphic mysteries. In doing so, he effectively displaces the traditional priests he criticizes for their literal-mindedness and, frankly, for taking money without imparting real, saving knowledge.
He becomes the true guide.
Based on intellect, not just ritual performance.
So he's basically saying, you think you know the truth from these old stories and rituals, but I have the secret key, the true gnosis, to unlock its real, profound meaning. It's a complete power play for intellectual and spiritual authority.
Exactly. It's a bid for intellectual supremacy. And most profoundly, he redefines the very nature of piety. True piety, true eudaia, is no longer about correct ritual, blind belief in myths, or simple devotion.
It's about understanding.
It's about correct philosophical understanding of the divine cosmos. This hermeneutic method, this decoding, becomes a revolutionary act. It's a daring bid to seize control of the discourse of religious truth by establishing a new, intellectually grounded criterion for accessing the divine. It's a complete shift in what it means to be truly religious, from practice and belief to reasoned understanding.
Despite his incredible ingenuity, his profound impact, the sheer audacity, the Derveni author remains anonymous. That must be incredibly frustrating for scholars, trying to place such a brilliant mind.
It certainly has been. It sparked more than half a century of intense investigation, speculation, robust scholarly debate. His anonymity, combined with the text's fragmentary nature and its unique blend of philosophy and religion, it's led to numerous, often conflicting attempts to put a known name to the work.
People really want to know who he was.
Absolutely. This debate highlights the inherent difficulty of reconstructing intellectual history from incomplete evidence. It showcases the different ways scholars weigh the text's diverse elements: philosophy, language, religion. There's no easy answer, and the text's ambiguity invites this ongoing puzzle.
So tell us about some of the leading candidates scholars have proposed over the years. Who do they think he might have been? What are the arguments?
Of course, one prominent candidate, strongly proposed by scholar Richard Janko, is Diagoras of Melos.
Diagoras, the notorious atheist.
The very same. The arguments are compelling. The Derveni author's rationalist monotheism, his strong critique of mystery cults and priests, his use of allegory. It all aligns well with ancient accounts of Diagoras, who was condemned for revealing mystery secrets. Janko even suggested the work could be his lost Apopergizantes logoi tower-raising arguments.
It's the tone.
It does. However, a key counterargument is that the Derveni author engages quite seriously with eschatology, ritual, the soul's fate. That seems inconsistent with a simple dismissive atheist. He reinterprets, he doesn't just reject.
Okay, so maybe not Diagoras. Who else?
Another fascinating proposal from Charles H. Kahn is Euthyphron of Prospalta.
Euthyphro, from the Plato dialogue, the one arguing with Socrates about piety.
That's him. Kahn points to the author's self-presentation as a mantis, a seer, his preoccupation with etymology as a path to divine truth, his concern with piety and divine justice. These traits, Kahn argues, strongly parallel Plato's character Euthyphro, especially in Cratylus and Euthyphro.
Interesting parallel.
The counter is that Euthyphro's connection to Orphism and Presocratic physics is speculative. Our knowledge of him is filtered through Plato, who might have been satirizing him. And lots of people use etymology. It's suggestive, but maybe not conclusive.
Right. Anyone else?
Walter Burkhardt, a giant in the study of Greek religion, suggested Stesimbrotus of Thassos. Stesimbrotus was a known rhapsode, an interpreter of Homer, and reportedly wrote on rites.
That fits the profile? Interpreter, interested in rites?
It does, someone bridging poetry and ritual. However, the surviving fragments of Stesimbrotus are just too scant. They lack the detailed philosophical content needed to firmly connect him to the Derveni author's very specific, complex physical doctrines. Not enough evidence.
One more.
Finally, A. Lebedev argued for Prodicus of Ceos. Based on shared sophistic methods etymology, synonymy Prodicus's known theory on the naturalistic origins of religion, alleged cosmological interests. Lebedev saw it as a sophistic deconstruction of popular religion.
Prodicus, another sophist.
Yes. But the evidence for Prodicus's specific cosmological views, like an air cosmogony matching Derveni, is weak. His known approach to religion seems different from the Derveni author's elaborate allegories. Most scholars find this argument unpersuasive today.
So it seems scholars can't even agree on who he was. This brings us to an even more fundamental debate. What was his ultimate intention? Was he trying to defend religion by making it compatible with science? Or was he trying to tear it down, expose myths as just allegories for physics?
This is indeed the most fundamental interpretive conflict in Derveni scholarship, and it truly reveals the author's sheer brilliance and strategic cunning. The debate revolves around whether the treatise is religious defense or philosophical subversion, diametrically opposed views.
Defense versus subversion.
One prominent position, championed by Geber Batek, sees the author as a devout, priestly figure with Orphic allegiance. His goal was apologetic, syncretic, defending Orphism from intellectual assaults by showing it was compatible with advanced science.
Saving religion through reason.
For this view, yes. Ritual, cosmology, eschatology are inseparable. True piety requires philosophical understanding of the divine cosmos. The treatise is sophisticated religious instruction for initiates, harmonizing faith and reason.
Okay, that's one view. The other.
The second position, argued forcefully by Richard Janko, portrays the author as a radical rationalist, a polemicist, fundamentally a physicist who has no use for mystery cults.
Using allegory as a weapon.
Exactly. To expose the absurdity of literal belief, ridicule priests. His true purpose, on this view, is co-opting Orpheus's authority to advance a proto-scientific, monotheistic worldview, replacing traditional religion with rational inquiry. This is where the Diagoras identification fits perfectly.
The atheist reading.
Yes, stripping away religious illusion through enlightenment.
So, two diametrically opposed views, and you're saying both are incredibly well supported by the text itself. How is that possible? It sounds like a philosophical Rorschach test.
It truly is. And the persistence of these contradictory interpretations isn't a failure of modern scholarship. It's a profound testament to the ancient author's deliberate, brilliant rhetorical strategy. The text itself is strategically ambiguous.
Ambiguous on purpose.
It contains passages that can credibly support both a pious and a polemical reading. It seriously engages with ritual and the soul, yet explains everything through material physics and criticizes religious practitioners. It's like a meticulously constructed intellectual puzzle with multiple valid solutions depending on your perspective.
So he built in plausible deniability, a way to protect himself and his ideas in that dangerous time of impiety trials, playing with intellectual fire but with a clever escape route.
Exactly. That's precisely it. In that perilous late 5th century climate, framing revolutionary physics as mere interpretation of a revered text was genius. It created plausible deniability.
So different audiences could read it differently.
Precisely. A religious audience could see it as deepening their faith, making tradition intellectually respectable. A philosophical, rationalist audience could see it as subtle subversion, exposing myth as scientific allegory. This ambiguity ensured its survival and relevance. The modern scholarly debate isn't a failure. It's proof of the author's successful strategy.
Regardless of his identity or exact purpose, what's the lasting legacy of the Derveni author for Western philosophy? How does he fit into the bigger story, especially coming right before Plato and Aristotle?
He holds a secure and profoundly significant place. He stands as one of the latest Presocratics, representing the culmination of that rich tradition in its final, most complex phase, just before the paradigm shifts of Plato and Aristotle.
The end of an era, in a way.
His work is a testament to the sophisticated synthesis possible. Then Ionian physics, atomism, Heraclitus, all woven together. It shows the diverse paths Presocratic thought could take before being largely overshadowed.
And in terms of how he approached texts, his method.
He's undeniably a foundational figure in hermeneutics, the theory of interpretation. His treatise is the earliest surviving example of sustained allegorical commentary on a literary text in the West. It established a method with a long, influential history, shaping how Stoics, Neoplatonists, even early Christians interpreted their sacred texts.
Saving texts from literalism.
Exactly. Furthermore, the papyrus gives us unparalleled direct evidence for early Orphic poetry and its interaction with philosophy, something we previously understood mainly through later, often distorting, Neoplatonist lenses. It's a direct contemporary window.
So, in a way, he represents a fascinating road not taken by later Western philosophy, a path explored but then largely abandoned.
In many profound ways, yes. His ambitious project fusing mystical religion with materialist physics into one system, where the divine is immanent, physical, and myth, his scientific allegory, represents a significant intellectual path that Western philosophy, after Plato's turn towards a transcendent realm of forms and Aristotle's categories, largely chose not to follow.
Plato changed the game.
Plato's emphasis on non-material reality, a separation between physical and spiritual, moved philosophy differently. The Derveni author's work is thus a precious record of a lost possibility in the history of thought. A glimpse into what might have been a powerful vision of unity that lay buried for centuries.
The Derveni Author. Though his name is forever lost, he emerges from those ashes as a truly brilliant, essential voice in the story of Western philosophy. He stood right at the crossroads of mythos and logos and dared to declare them at their core one and the same.
His complex philosophical system, his ingenious hermeneutic method, his masterful rhetorical strategy, they offer us an invaluable contemporary perspective on a vibrant, syncretic, and ultimately perilous intellectual world. It reminds us how radical ideas found expression and struggle for survival. A profound legacy.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If this intellectual path, this fusion of mystical religion and materialist physics, had been more widely adopted, how might the whole course of Western thought have diverged? What other possibilities might have opened up if philosophy kept weaving science so tightly into the fabric of the divine instead of often separating them? Sometimes into warring camps? It's a truly profound question to ponder, especially today.
And one that the Derveni author certainly challenges us to consider with every single carbonized column of his extraordinary work. What stands out most to you from his daring synthesis?
Thank you for joining us on this exploration in AI history of Western philosophy. Until next time, keep exploring those ancient, endlessly resonant ideas.